pandemic continues to impact the health and safety of our community. In an effort to be diligent, the city is continuing to conduct all public meetings virtually using the Zoom platform and live stream through YouTube. Access information can be located on the city's website and on each meeting agenda. I call to order the meeting of February 22nd, 2022 at 6 o'clock p.m. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which nation it stands, one nation under all, independence and liberty. And I have messed that up. So now let's call on Mr. Schenkel.
Good evening, folks. Will you pray with me and meditate on these words? Wise and loving God, we thank you for the beautiful sunny day today. And as the city council and the mayor go into this meeting tonight, may you grant the mayor and the council to have ears to listen to the people that they serve and provide them with wisdom and act for justice. I'm asking you, would you grant them the wisdom to govern amidst conflicts and interests? Against in midst of conflicting interest and issues of our times, a sense of welfare and true needs of the people, the ability to work together in honest disagreement. Please give them assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those of the people that live within the city limits of Sumner and work within those boundaries of the beautiful city. We ask in all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Have a blessed meeting, folks.
Thank you, Lance. It's that kind of night. We'll see what the other guy, we'll see the next person can do. So will the clerk please call the roll?
Potato.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Cole.
Here.
Hochstetter.
Here.
Newman.
Here.
Reed.
Here.
Stewart.
Here.
100%. Michelle, would you like to read the consent agenda?
Item number 1, approval of the checks and electronic payments in the amount of $5,014,867.09. Item 2, approval of the minutes from the regular council meeting of February 7th, 2022 and 14 February 2022 study session. Item 3, agreement with Pierce County for federal low-income household water assistance program services. Item 4, resolution 1614, Washington State Department of Transportation updated right-of-way procedures. Item 5, purchase and sale agreement, parking area of 1312 Main Street, Napa, for Main and Wood project. Item 6, Bridge Street Bridge project acceptance. And item 7, pandemic policy update.
Great. Can we have a motion by Deputy Mayor Hochstetter?
Yes, I move we accept the consent agenda.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Councilmember Stewart. It's been moved and seconded. Would any council member wish to remove an item? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimous. So public hearings, we have no public hearing tonight, and we're off to regular business. We have no unfinished business and public comment. So the public is encouraged to submit their comments to the city clerk by email before tonight's meeting, so the clerk may read those emails received to the record. Michelle, were there any public comments?
No, Mayor, there were not.
Does any public listening or watching have any comments they would like to make regarding any item not on the agenda? Use your raise your hand feature. If you are participating by telephone, you can raise your hand by pressing *9. Do we have any public All right, seeing none, we'll move on to new business. And the first we have ordinance number 2807, Sumner Municipal Code Contract Approval Authority. We have Cassandra Raymond, I think.
Mayor, you need a motion. Second.
Oh, do we have a motion?
Mayor, I move we approve ordinance number 2807, amending Sumner Municipal Code, Chapter 2.112.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Yes,
I'll
I'll
second.
second that.
Moved by Councilmember Reed, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hochstetter. Okay, now we have Cassandra Raymond.
Good evening, everyone. Cassandra Raymond, your Chief Financial Officer. Before you tonight, you have ordinance number 2807. This is amending the Sumner Municipal Code, Chapter 2.112, relating to Contract Approval Authority. This portion of the municipal code goes hand in hand with our administrative purchasing and contracting manual. That manual was originally adopted on June 4th of 2018 and provides a comprehensive guideline to purchasing and contracting for our staff reference. We've been working on updating that manual over the past 2 years, and the updated manual was brought to Finance Committee in November of 2021. With the revision of the purchasing and contracting manual, we do need to update this portion of the Sumner Municipal Code to be consistent with that purchasing policy. These updates are consistent with the policy as well as consistent with all state statute. They provide transparency for our departments as well as our vendors, and they still maintain a strong internal control environment for staff. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions or discussion with council? No questions, no discussion. Any members of the public like to speak on this? Oh, there we go. There's some hands. Councilmember Reed.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to comment in regard to this motion. It's an expansion of the authority, the signing authority, but there's also still the accountability to the directors and the mayor that go along with it. And I did feel that it can help expedite some of the daily activities of the city. And there's also the ability, if there were ever concern, that it could be brought back before council to be addressed again. So I am in favor of it.
Thank you. Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor Hayden. I had a chance to talk to Ms. Raymond today and had a few questions. This is kind of right in my 4 decades of public service, and I was very interested in a lot of things. And I fully support this ordinance. And I'm wondering if Ms. Raymond, if you could review a little bit what we talked about as far as when projects are bid and kind of go through that process for those of us that are new to the council.
Of course. So whenever the city has a project, the first thing we, of course, look at is this a public work? Because public works projects are defined by statute, and they are also have a different level of control as far as the bidding environment. So we first determine, is this a public works project or not? If not, what sort of a project is it? We look at the overall cost. When we look at that overall cost, we're not just looking at the acquisition cost that day. We're looking at what is the total cost of this project up to the point that we're putting it into its intended service. At that point, then we look at our purchasing and contracting manual. The purchasing manual was developed to be consistent and in some cases more restrictive than RCW, than state statute. It also was developed with federal funding in mind. Some of our projects, not only in public works, but in law enforcement and in other departments, can be funded by federal partnerships. And so we take into account those as well. Depending on the total cost of the project will determine whether it's something that can be informally acquired in-house, which is a very, very low threshold, versus a limited small works process, a small works roster process, or a formal sealed bid. The other option that we have is cooperative purchasing. Generally, that will refer to purchasing under the state contract. All of these really are designed to provide an internal control that we are getting the best value with providing the fairest competition to our vendors. Public works projects under $350,000 can be procured under a small works roster. We contract with Municipal Services and Research for their small works roster. And really what that means is MSRC does the required by statute work of annual bidding, as well as vetting of contractors and keeping a contractor list. And then when we have a project that fits under small works roster guidelines, we're able to access that roster list. And then there's a certain process we have to go through in order to bid projects for those vendors. All of our projects follow all statutes as far as bid documents, as well as prevailing wages. I could go on and on and on. Happy to sit down with anyone who wants to delve into the purchasing world, because it's something I enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just one final comment. In talking with her and understanding bid laws and procedures that are in place, I am very, very passionate about this and have zero concerns about the staff going out to their favorite vendor all the time. This really is the epitome of fair and open purchasing. So thank you so much for your hard work on this.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Thank you. Any other discussion or questions by council members? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Cole,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes,
Hochstetter,
Yes.
Potato,
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Moving on to ordinance number 2810, parking code amendments. Councilmember Newman, would you like to make a motion?
I think you skipped a ordinance
I did?
2811.
Oh, man. Yes, I did. Okay, well, let's move up to 2811, amending Sumner Municipal Code utility billing. Councilmember Potato, would you like to make a motion?
Yes. I make a motion to approve ordinance number 2811, amending Sumner Municipal Code 13.08, utility billing.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Yes, I'll second that.
Seconded by Deputy Mayor Hochstetter. Now we'll call on Chief Financial Officer Cassandra Raymond again.
Thank you. So switching gears now, before you is ordinance number 2811. This is amending Sumner Municipal Code 13.08 in regards to utility billing. Currently, the Sumner Municipal Code allows for utility bills to be set up in the tenant's name. However, state statute directs that the fiscal responsibilities of the utility bill will always remain with the property. And really what that boils down to is, in the past, although we have set up utility accounts in tenants' names, the final responsibility or the buck stops with the property owner. And what we're finding as we're kind of moving through our current practices is that we are recommending amending the municipal code to require that all residential utilities be placed under an owner's name and not the tenant's. This really does provide owners the transparency and the accountability of having that knowledge and that transparency over the utility account that ultimately is their financial responsibility. We have been moving towards this for quite some time. I mean, if you recall in our prior conversations regarding returning to our shutoff procedures, for any payment arrangements, we are requiring that even if the utility is in a tenant's name, that the payment arrangement requires an owner authorization. And really that goes back to the same underlying principle. The owners have the underlying financial responsibility for the account, regardless of whose name it's in. So we want to really be sure that we are providing the owners with that transparency of their utility accounts. I'm sorry, I just lost my place. Happy to answer any questions.
Have any questions? Councilmember Hochstetter.
Thank you, Mayor. Cassandra, I understand the reasoning behind this. I'm just wondering, does the owner of the property have any legal obligation to give the tenant the exact amount of their bill? Meaning, would they just fold this into their rent? Is that legal? Or would they, if people felt like they were conserving on their water, would there be a way for them to know if they are or aren't? I understand why this is happening, but I just know that people are used to having control of their own bills. So
go ahead, Andrea.
Cassandra, you want me to take this one?
Yeah.
Councilmember Hochstetter, there is not a statute that directly addresses this. Typically, lease agreements are a private contract between a landlord and a tenant, and to be blunt, the terms could be whatever both parties are willing to agree to. There are lots of lease agreements that include a set block rate that's intended to cover all of the utility bills. There are triple net leases that require a multitude of things from tenants that don't always follow the exact dollar amount of the cost of that service. So I would say that by and large, lease agreements for residential properties pass through the exact amount, whether it's monthly or quarterly or annually, but there is no legal requirement that that be the case.
okay, thank you. So this one's for Cassandra then. So how long do you think it'll take the public to get used to this? This is kind of a big change. Do you think that you'll have some bumps in the road on this situation, or?
It is, Councilmember Hochstetter. So we are not intending to flip a switch. We're not intending to go through our accounts and say, okay, now if it was in your tenant's name, all of a sudden now it's in your name. What we are proposing to do is really change these accounts by attrition as we get notifications that a tenant is leaving and a closing bill is being requested. At that point, we'll work with the owners as they come in to, at that point, keep the account in the owner's name rather than assigning it to a new tenant. So it's not going to be a not flipping a switch, and it's not going to be a mass change. We'll address them as tenants leave premises.
Well, thank you for that. I think that's a very reasonable way to handle this situation. So thank you that your department is going to handle it in that gradual method.
Councilmember Reed.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to speak in favor of this. I know it's going to be a little bit of an adjustment for some of the rental property owners on the surface, even though it doesn't change the underlying responsibility. It'll be a transition, but it's a great transparency move for the owners to be better in touch with the status of their renters and being able to manage that effectively between them and the renter without the potential of being stuck with a surprise bill at the end, for example. So I'm in favor of this measure.
Okay, do I have any other council comments or questions? Oh, Councilmember Cole.
Just one comment, which I think was left out, is just that with this change, tenants will still have owners will still have the option of providing duplicate billings to their tenants. So I think that's an important distinction.
So they are welcome to provide it. It's not something that we'll be doing through our system, but the owners absolutely have the flexibility to share that with their tenants.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no more, is there any member of the public that wishes to comment on this? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Stewart,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Hochstetter,
Yes.
Newman,
Yes.
Reed, excuse me, I lost my place. Potato,
Yes.
Cole.
Yes.
Welcome
Thank
to my
you.
world.
Mine too, apparently. Thank you very much.
Okay, let's move on to ordinance number 2810, parking code amendments, 136th Avenue Court East. And I will call on Director Ryan Windish.
Thank you. First,
Oh, I need a motion. Do we have a motion?
I'll move that we approve ordinance number 2810 regard parking code amendments for 136th Avenue Court East.
Thank you, Councilmember Newman. Do we have
I'll
a
second.
second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Councilmember Reed. Now I'll call on Community Development Director Ryan Windish.
Thank you, Mayor Hayden, and good evening, City Council. Ordinance 2810 would amend the parking code, and it's really in response to truck parking complaints that the city's received from adjacent businesses on this section of 136th Avenue Court East. And this area, this section of the street lies south of 24th Street. So it's near the hotels up in that area, near the Bigfoot Java. There's a 7-Eleven and a Starbucks also on that corner, as well as Pape Machinery, and then a new Peterbilt dealership that's under construction. So those are all accessed off of this particular street in our interchange commercial zone. And the complaints stem from the fact that the road's narrow, and with any trucks really parking along that street, it creates congestion. There's close driveway entrances, and the local businesses also are worried about accidents because they have their own trucks that are coming in and out of those areas for deliveries. And then garbage and human waste disposal continues to be problems when you see trucks parking for any length of time in different areas. So all the business owners adjacent to this street are in favor of prohibiting truck parking. We actually had a meeting with several of the businesses, and then I reached out upon the request of others in the meeting that I contact all the other businesses by phone. I was able to talk to them about this issue, and they were all in favor of prohibiting truck parking along this area for one reason or another. So that's what the ordinance would do. It would prohibit commercial truck parking on both sides of the road. It would allow automobile parking for up to 4 hours on the west side near the hotels. And then that would allow for enough room on the street for safe passage of semi trucks in particular, if they were to have to do that in this area. So that's what the ordinance would accomplish. And glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Windish? Well, seeing none, oh, there is a couple. You guys are late on the draw. Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm pretty familiar with this area because my daughter comes and visits, and we put her up in one of those hotels. And I'm actually in favor of this. I have seen significant litter, all of the things that Ryan described around town, places where semis park, and it's disgusting. And so I'm in favor of this. I just have a question about only allowing 4-hour parking for automobiles. When I've driven my daughter back to the Holiday Inn, especially on Friday nights, she drives, I follow just to make sure she gets there safely. There's no parking. Friday night seems to be the night that everybody goes to the Holiday Inn to celebrate. I don't know what the deal is, but is there a reason why it's limited to 4 hours? That's my big concern.
Yeah, it's the 4-hour parking is intended to prevent long-term car parking, because that can also create a bit of an issue. we hadn't really contemplated, a longer length of time. The code only allows, there's certain things the code does. It's easy, and there's certain things the code does that we'd have to make bigger changes. So right now we have a 4-hour limit section in the code that I added the street to as a recommendation.
Okay, thank you. I'm not advocating a change. I'm just, if a visitor is late getting to the hotel and can't find a place to park, I guess they get to go out and move their car every 4 hours. So, but I support this totally to help clean up that part of town. Thank you.
Councilmember Newman, did you have any discussion?
Yeah, no, so I just wanted to thank Mr. Windish. Because I know this probably seems, depending on the perspective, might seem like something obvious or easy and we should just quickly go like this. But I was concerned about whether some of the accessory businesses in the area would be concerned if we were taking away like their coffee customers or like their breakfast and whatnot. And it's time consuming to do all of that outreach, but it tends to make policy decisions better and government better. And so, Ryan, I just wanted to thank you for putting all the time into those calls to make it easier to vote for and support.
Thank you. Councilmember Reed.
Thank you, Mayor. And Ryan, I may have got totally confused on this one. I thought it was also going to include the mailbox portion. Or is that a separate issue that's being addressed?
That's a separate ordinance that is going to be addressing that.
Okay.
It already got passed.
Adopted at the last meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. I for some reason that was sticking in my head, and I've read so many things this last week or so that. No, I appreciate it. I just wanted to double check.
Thank you, Patrick. Any other comments for Mr. Windish? Seeing none, any members of the public? No members of the public. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Reed,
Yes.
Potato,
Yes.
Hochstetter,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Newman,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
7-0. All right, we move on to our last item, resolution number 1613, Parks Improvement Plan. Deputy Mayor Hochstetter, do we have a motion?
Yes, I move we approve resolution number 1613, establishing the 2022-2027 Parks Improvement Plan.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion by Councilmember Stewart. And I will call on Community Services Manager Derek Berry.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for allowing me to present the Resolution 1613, the Parks Improvement Plan, for your consideration. This resolution creates a Parks Improvement Plan similar to our Transportation Improvement Plan, which will identify and prioritize the park projects for the next 6 years. The list was created with significant guidance from the 2018 Parks and Trail Plan update. The approach we've taken includes seeking property in underserved areas of Sumner and making improvements to our existing facilities. Those efforts led to acquiring the Bennett property with funding assistance from Pierce County Conservation Futures, seeking funding assistance through Recreation and Conservation Office for the covered court at Rainier View Park, the planning of Siementhaler Park and the Bennett property, as well as a donation from the David and Janelle Quinnell family for a small park in the River Grove area. This park improvement plan will be a working document giving us a roadmap of projects and priorities. I'd love to answer any questions you may have.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Berry? Councilmember Newman.
Same thing on the outreach front. I would like to thank Mr. Berry for giving us his time, I think 2 weeks ago at Rotary, and going through many of the highlights of the proposed park plan to other community members. And yes, he did get questions about the spray park.
Councilmember Deputy Mayor Hochstetter.
Thank you. I also would like to thank Mr. Derek Berry for all his hard work on this. This example is very easy to read. It allows us to see what is prioritized and where the funding comes from. And I am just very happy that the city will have a guideline for its parks, because we do value our parks. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councilmember Newman, you still have your hand up, or you have another question? Nope. You're on mute. So, okay, so is there any members of the public that would like to speak to this? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Hochstetter,
Yes.
Newman,
Yes, I think you can hear me. Yes.
Now we can.
Cole,
Yes.
Potato,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
7-0. All right. Now we're off to reports. I will call on Councilmember Reed.
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing this evening other than stay warm.
Wow. Councilmember Newman.
Nothing this evening.
Okay. All right, Councilmember Hochstetter, Deputy Mayor Hochstetter.
No, thank you.
Councilmember Cole.
No report, thank you.
Councilmember Brown.
Yeah, congrats to the women's basketball team for winning regionals.
Yay.
And best of luck Friday against Richland.
Yeah. Thank you. Councilmember Stewart.
Nothing tonight. Thank you.
Councilmember Botetto.
Nothing.
Jason Wilson, City Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. Coming up on next week's study session, we'll have a consultant from Dunn Industries coming to talk about our fiber optic study that the city recently completed. And this is how, what we looked at was how do we connect all of our city facilities to high-speed internet and a more reliable, secure network. I will also be hearing from Public Works and Legal about an update on the White River Restoration Project, and then discussing the parks master plans for Siebenthaler and Bennett property parks. Also next week, we have our council retreat on Saturday, March 5th here at City Hall from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And I'll be sending out an email later this week to all of you with some pre-work to get prepared for that council retreat that really focuses on what your goals are for the next biennial budget and how they align with our strategic priorities. And then our next regular council meeting is on March 7th, where you'll consider a purchase and sale agreement for a piece of property off of 29th Street, an ordinance authorizing the condemnation for our new Public Works operations facility, and an ordinance amending the biennial budget. And then also immediately following our regular council meeting, we'll be holding a special study session that will follow up on the senior housing amendments, as well as the multifamily tax exemption expansion that we discussed last week at study session. On the personnel front, I just want to point out that we are currently recruiting for summer seasonal employees. We have a few openings for 3-month seasonal positions working in our Public Works Operations Division, as well as 1 5-month seasonal position in our Parks Division. These are great opportunities for students home from college or for someone interested in future work in local government. Additionally, the city has renewed its partnership with Degrees of Change for our SEED internship program to fill our engineering summer internships. We also have a few other positions available on our website. Encourage you to take a look. We are always recruiting for some great talent. On the policy follow-up front, I want to turn it back over to Chief Financial Officer Raymond to give an update on our utility disconnects. As you know, today was the last day to bring your account current to avoid service interruptions. I'll turn it over to Cassandra to share an update on where we're at.
Thank you. So we've been talking about this for quite some time. We have been messaging our customers for really the past 2 years on really encouraging customers to stay as up to date on their bills as possible. And if they were having trouble, to please reach out to us to help make arrangements or to request assistance through other local agencies. To be honest, coming up until today, we were intimidated. You know, last week we hung 445 door tags, which, keeping in mind our normal shutoff cycle is anywhere between, usually right around between 30 and 40 shutoffs. So we were nervous. I want to thank, first of all, Carmen and Joe McKinney, who have really helped like crazy with the messaging, as well as the shop staff on hanging those door tags. And then all of the staff in City Hall. We were all geared up to have all hands on deck over the next 2 days for shutoffs, including people in other departments who were going to help us with kind of coordinating what we hoped was going to be a cavalcade of people. But that cavalcade showed up over the past week. Since those door tags went out, we have gone from 445 door tags to we currently have 42 customers on our shutoff list. So we have 70 payment plans in place that will take a fair amount of staff time to monitor and maintain over the next 12 months. Just to give an example, we have just today have brought in over $39,000 in online payments. And we've gone from a past due liability of $450,000 to $63,000. So it's huge. Like I said, we've been intimidated, but the messaging works. So my thanks to the community. I know it's been a rough 2 years. I know that, you know, it was kind of daunting looking at those balances that we had, but together we did it. So thank you.
I'm happy to see Cassandra smile. It's been a rough couple months, and it's nice to see her smile. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So we hosted the Puyallup Sumner leadership class from the chamber, Puyallup Sumner Chamber, here on Friday. Had quite a crew, and they took a tour of the industrial area given by our very own Ryan Windish in his Winnebago tour. And Ryan knows more about the industrial area than anybody I know. But we also had lunch at Delano's and a tour. And I invite anybody to go and check out Delano's. They have a great store. They sell all kinds of things, and I'm sure they would give a tour if you ask them. It's really an awesome place. So with that, I don't think we have no executive session tonight, right? So I will say meeting is adjourned. Thanks, guys.